MashaAllah, Jazakumullah khairan. We are very grateful for our both speakers, Sheikh Rajani and Sheikh Muhammad Sajjad. Both of them tried their best to present their view, representing their own school of thought authentically, and we can understand the genuine madhab of al-Sunnah over this issue and the genuine madhab of al-Shia over the issue of succession. And you may have noticed, this is the only topic I said earlier at the beginning, and this is ikhtilafi, there are much ikhtilafat, but I have to appreciate both of my elders and the scholars. At the end, right, whatever you have expressed your sympathy for the unity of Ummah and the peaceful coexistence, this is the need of the hour. That's, I'm very, very happy. Now this is the time of Q&A session, and obviously this is not the debate, and one person can ask a question, at a time. One question, and if he or she feels your question is not addressed, still you will be given the chance and wait, and inshallah I'll come back to you together, but write down your question and the part which is not addressed, because we have to provide the equal opportunities. Sometimes we concentrate much on this table, and from the other side, our brother and the sisters, they complain. So that's why one person may ask only one question at a time.
If there's a question and a comment.
Yes, sir. Along with the comments, yes, you can give with your question, right, or clarification. When you ask the question, this is not to any particular one, Maulana Sajjad or Sheikh Rajani, but Sheikh Arif, Sheikh Amir Hussain Naqvi, Sheikh Abu Ja'far, these shuyukh, can add something. Not only Maulana Sajjad, vice versa, Dr. Khurram Saab and Mufti Farooq Saab, Maulana Muhammad Ayyaz. Let me introduce to you Maulana Muhammad Ayyaz, mashallah. He is here. He is a great scholar and alim, and he spent most of his time in South Africa, then in the Scotland, and nowadays, and he is an Imam Khatib of Central Mosque, Blackie, and the teacher of Darul Ulum Coventry Road and Babul Ilm Spark Group Islamic Center. We welcome you here, mashallah. Yeah. So, taking the question from al-Shia first side, Sheikh Arif, you want to ask?
There's one question that I will ask both the answer and then come to Maulana. Sheikh Rajani, thank you for your presentation. Thank you so much for your presentation. I want to ask from a theological perspective. I'm going to reserve some comments for afterwards. But doesn't authority require consent of the people that are going to be ruled upon? Even if the Prophet came, if you remember in Makkah, he was sent as the Prophet by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but his authority meant nothing until the Meccans were convinced that he is a prophet, and they also gave him the reins of authority upon their own souls. Yes? And that's why the Quran now, shouldn't it have been the right of the people to choose who the Khalifa was? I'm saying, do the Shias address this theological issue? And after that, there's a consequence to this question, which we could go.
Yeah. So, in terms of, thank you so much for this brilliant comment. And it's a very important thing to focus, like what's the role of Ummah in this regard. Yeah, when we discuss about like Quran, or like when we discuss about Prophet, or like Imam Ali, or like Imams arguing their right in this way, but then like what would be the role of Ummah in this selection?
You see, you can have the most eligible.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, we said that Ali ibn Abi Talib was most qualified, most eligible.
Yeah.
But can you impose authority upon people without their consent?
No. Yeah, so as I was mentioning, like it's very important to consider the role of the Ummah in part of selection or election, or like what we call maqbooliyah. So definitely, I would suggest the role of people is vital, and for the very reason, the imamat of Imam Ali as a spiritual leader, this is something which is recommended by Prophet. But when it comes to the Khilafah, he would sit down unless the people would come and ask about this role of Imam Ali. So definitely there should be a mechanism, but unfortunately, like in theological discussions, because I think this should be the modern phenomenon when we say people, what should be the role of the Muslim Ummah in the selection or election. So based on my reading, unfortunately, this has been neglected in early Islam. But practically speaking, this was very important in the mindset and the worldview of imams. Like until people come back to them, that there is not going to be the Khilafah. So according to the Khilafah, the Amirul Mu'mineen starts when people came to his house and asking him to come back, and then that would be the literal Khilafah when it will be started. So to give the answer to your question, definitely the role of people is there. It should be there, and based on the historical thing, we can always say when Imam Ali as the fourth Caliph, when people came, the Khilafah would start from that, because that's the role of Muslim Ummah. Theoretically speaking, no, that was neglected based on my reading in theological discussion in the books of Aqaid. I don't think we do argue on this important point.
Those second question, because if you think your question is not addressed properly, please note it and given to the second chance. Yes.
So should I ask a question? No, based on the response, Sheikh, Mata, thank you so much for clarifying to point 2, 4, and 5 that if Hazrat Abu Bakr was given the salah by the Prophet, and if that constituted an evidence, that would have been brought in Saqifa, but that was not brought. And Hazrat Abu Bakr never said to Imam Ali that the Prophet favored me. So thank you for that clarification. That was very honest of you. And thank you for very honest presentations. So I want to ask, based on this question now, that it seems to me that Khilafah was an open issue. It wasn't concluded. It was something that the Ummah was supposed to work out in one way or another, according to both of your presentations, yes? From what you responded here. So I want to ask one thing. It didn't matter at all. Islam was completed, whether it was Imam Ali or Hazrat Abu Bakr. Islam was completed. It wouldn't have made any difference to Islam, no matter who it came. So now I'm asking Maulana Sahib a very genuine question. If Hazrat Abu Bakr became the first Khalifa, then should he be considered as a human being who has taken the role of Khalifa, or should he be seen as some great authority? Because I find, like in the Shia, when they say Imam is a divine authority, in the Sunni we find the same thing, that Abu Bakr was the first Khalifa, you listen to everything he says. He is beyond criticism. According to your presentation, the presentation that you gave, Hazrat Abu Bakr became the Khalifa through a random process, nothing to do with the Prophet. So doesn't that show that we can criticize Hazrat Abu Bakr if we find objectively that, look, he made mistake, we have a right to say he made a mistake. Is he, just because he was the first Khalifa, does he mean he is beyond criticism, especially after what you explained, right? I would like to know this from the Sunni.
And his first speech.
Dr. Khalid, take few more questions, then let them answer.
After
take few more
being
questions.
elected as a Khalifa, he made his speech in front of people. He himself said, if I say something that is good, follow me. If I do something wrong, don't follow me.
So that means that there is no validity to the Sunnah of Hazrat Abu Bakr. There is no authority.
Yes, sir. I'd like to invite Dr. Khurram Bashir Sir, if you want to add to answer the Sheikh, and then Sheikh Muhammad Ayaz, if you want to say about, because the question about the authority, was it a divine authority or not? This is the essence of the question, Dr. Sir.
Yesterday there was elections in Iran.
Sorry?
There was elections in Iran.
Okay.
Today.
Yesterday and today. Yesterday.
Yes.
And in Pakistan, being a predominantly Sunni state and Shia state, both have elections. So I am afraid our brother has missed the reality on the ground. It's good exercise, having some theological clarification and some scholarly discourses. But effective position is futile exercise. Both are having, it has given to Ummah, to Iranian people and to Pakistani people. And do you find that you are living in past, which has, हमारा उर्दू में कहते हैं चला हुआ कारतूस. There's nothing to do with today's world. Today's world, it has all depended on the Ummah.
No, the question is about the election of
I know.
This is a time is short, because addressing directly the question.
I know, I am on the topic that it has come to the Ummah, whether it is Shia people or Sunni people, and this is the de facto situation. Perhaps I am not able to elaborate to make it more clear, but it is a historical discussion, very good. But de facto, we don't need it. We don't need it because both the Sunni and Shia, they have a consensus that it has to be through the community, to the Ummah, which you have missed altogether in your.
He's missing my last slide because as I said, there is no practical ramification. Yeah, in my spiritual life, that's the answer to what you are discussing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so, no, let me. That was the question was from the Sheikh, from the other side.
Can I thought you were going to raise my, so I'll come back to it. What I was trying to say was,
Sheikh, can you wait because we have to give the chance. Yes, from al-Sunnah side, yes, the question, Sheikh Yaz or Dr.
My question is simply what I understand what the election party is. Institution of Khalifah itself, as is developed, by the time you come to al-Mahdi and the Shia and Sunni, al-Mahdi uses both language, Khalifah and Imam, simultaneously. By the time you come to Ibn Taymiyyah, the idea of Khalifah is already moved. The institution is not something that you can really stick to it. You have to invent and develop. Focus shifted from Khilafah to Sharia. By the time you come to the 20th century, even that is moved. The concept of state started. So from my understanding is the whole concept of Khilafah itself a human construct. You can have criticism. But when you say the election of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as an institution, one can critically look at it. But as his practices, what are the legal implications of those practices is a completely different matter. As it is in your case.
but is it not open to critique?
As a politicized action, as we have been done, we are doing
I mean,
it.
we look at
Let me comment. Listen to it. We have to go through the procedure. The cross questioning we have to avoid because of giving the equal opportunities. Just very briefly addressing your question. According to the established view of al-Sunnah, apart from the position of the Holy Prophet or prophets previously, the position of Khalifa is not divine because he is selected, elected, appointed by the community and subject to criticism as well, but based on the sincerity, love for Islam and for renovation, reforms, not for facade. Right. So that's why Hazrat Abu Bakr in his in overall speech, and he made it clear that when I'm right, you should support me. When I make any mistake, correct me. And this is quite clear that was a thing.
I'm not antagonizing, and you know that.
Yeah.
I antagonize the Shias more than I antagonize the Sunni. But I wanted to make a point here. Is that at a scholarly level, we should be open enough. I'm open enough to say it's people's right to should give authority. So now, when Ali ibn Abi Talib was told, you will rule by the book and the Sunnah of Shaykhain, was he legitimately saying, I will rule by the book and Sunnah of the Prophet and not of Shaykhain?
Yes, he was right in that sense. That's why the rest of the Sahaba accepted his ruling because he got a right. He got a right. So that's why on the other hand, because this point was not clear, not addressed adequately, so I had to enter here. For this reason, for example, Hazrat Sa'd bin Ubadah, as has been mentioned, he never given the bay'ah to Hazrat Bakr and Hazrat Umar later on. But the Ummah never spotted him because that type of criticism or behavior that was the out of the circle. But showing the respect for Sa'd bin Ubadah as well, because he was from the most senior companions who invited the Holy Prophet to Medina, defended the Holy Prophet, defended the faith. But on this particular matter, never spotted. He's given the right of criticism. But in this way, when you are completely away from the al-Jama'ah, then this is the different case. Remaining within al-Jama'ah, you got the right to criticize based on the love and sincerity. Next question. It's a Sheikh from this side. Because this side, we take the question from this side and other side. Sorry to mention that.
Which side I am? Your side.
This is al-Sunnah, al-Shia. This is the tartib.
I am your side. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. I am Sheikh Khalid side.
Both speakers, they have really done very marvelous job, and Maulana for your presentation. But I have a problem with both of you in one point. When we say that Quran did not give us a hint on these matters, I really feel that we didn't give the Quran its merit. Because this is a book that Allah, He said, مَا فَرَطْنَا مِنْ كِتَابٍ شَيْءٍ. He mentioned even Ba'udha, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَسْتَحِي أَنْ يَضْرِبَ مَثَلًا مَا بَعُوضَةٍ فَمَا فَوْقَهَا. And yet we believe that Imamat is the most, holiest thing. That ma sallat sayf fi hadhihi al-ummah mithl ma sallat fil imam. And the sword has never been used in this ummah. Then it was used in the question of imamah, according to Shia Sunni, in the middle of Nahl. And yet we believe that God didn't say anything of this. I feel very strange. But we believe in this. Right? This is my point. We have to go and deep, especially when we have a Surah Al-Nur, which says, لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّكُمْ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. We should be very...
Can you concise your question?
Because I'm with the scholars here. I don't want to tell them, you say this, he say that, right? But I just want to say that we didn't give Quran the merits it deserved. When we say that it mentioned about Ba'udha, fly, it mentioned about Zubaba, it mentioned about mosquito, it mentioned about Himar, it mentioned about all of these, even Ankabut, spider, to be mentioned in the Quran. But yet, it didn't mention about leadership, which is so important. Then everything. وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا. Allah is making. وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَّمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. All who have been oppressed, Allah wants to make them leaders. So, yet we believe that God didn't say anything about this. And we're very, we didn't give the Quran its merit. We have to be honest.
Allah declares the name of any person. If it was so important to give a name of a person of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it should be in Quran. Zad, the name Zad, the name of one companion that is Zad is there, but Ali's name is not there.
No, Ali didn't say Ali has been mentioned. I say leadership.
Can I come in?
Okay.
Yes, this is, the proper courtesy and the rules. Let the other person speak when he finished, because this is the endemic argument. We are not debating here. This is the friendly, lovely situation.
Yes, not polemic.
Not polemic. So let him complete, because he's still in the middle.
So in general, Quran gives us general rules. It's our responsibility, scholars' responsibility to elicit the rules from the Quran. But Quran does not give detail in some manners. It does not tell us how many rak'ah in Fajr and Zuhr and Asr. But basic guidance is there. So basic guidance, all kind of guidance is
In the beginning, my humble submission was that practically it is in Iran and in Pakistan both left to the Ummah. This is our own scholarly discourse, but de facto situation that it is to the Ummah of Iran and Ummah of Pakistan to elect their leadership.
All right. You will give him again. No, this is because Question from this side.
Dr. Khalid, he asked both of us.
Yes.
So now it's
Yes.
Yeah.
You are concerned as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm being misquoted by Dr. Saab for the second time.
Yeah.
So I would invite him to, because when I was mentioning like mainstream and then I give my own view, yeah? So when I quoted those verses, that was like something what Major Street said. It was not my argument. So you need to, I would invite you to hear my lecture second time. So yeah, coming back to what Sheikh has said. So Sheikh, you're missing the slide of Maulana and mine where we both, Alhamdulillah, I was so glad like because our wordings were same, explicit. Maulana, you mentioned like couple of times explicit. I wrote the same thing. Otherwise, we can quote like Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa li kulli qawmin had. So the concept of khilafat, the concept of leadership is definitely there.
That's my point.
Yeah. So
Yes,
we
my
will thank
point.
you.
Yes, that's there. Yeah, you're
Now
right.
question, that was from Sheikh Brother Muhammad Idris from al-Sunnah side. From Brother Idris.
Sheikh Rajani, thank you for your discourse. I haven't been involved in these discussions, I'm not a scholar myself, but just to aid my understanding. Your approach regarding conventional approach versus a non-conventional approach, you talked about the fact that you could take a textual and Quran and Hadith approach, and there were weaknesses with that, where you could have differences in approach, the words, the meanings, and interpretations. When I listened to your conclusion from your non-conventional approach, where you said that the Ummah didn't adopt the Prophet's recommendation, I was just, when I followed your argument through to that conclusion, I was wondering that those same weaknesses that are there with the conventional approach, are they not there with the non-conventional approach as well? Because you still have the opportunity to interpret the evidences, and we've talked about the Quran and Hadith, to suit the conclusion that you want to arrive at. So from a theological point of view, I was just wondering, did I miss something in the difference between the two?
Yeah, thank you so much for picking such a brilliant point, yeah, because like it was so intangible. So coming back to the thing, I would take your challenge, and it's a genuine challenge, which could be addressed on a non-conventional approach. The thing is like it's less harmful, because textual evidences where you find like couple of things. When you don't quote a text, rather you quote like couple of evidences, historical evidences and events, because events can't be read, yeah, events can't be described like fragments of each from different things, yeah, and that fragment could be the ijma, it could be like amal of the people living in Medina, it could be the stance of family members. You can't see the stance, yeah? You can't see the ijma of Ahlul Madina, you can't see ijma of Ahlul Ard. So it could be challenged, it's not an infallible way, but it could be less challengeable than compared to the textual evidence.
Maulana Amir Hussain.
Thank you for doing the chance, and thank you for both of you with serious mistakes. And then I am saying one thing, simple question. That did Rasulullah know that I need Khalifah after me, Islam needs Khalifah after me? This is about Rasulullah's action. The other thing is that Khilafat is part of Islam, or this whatever people do, this is. If it is part of Islam, then it should be from Prophet generation. Otherwise, you can see that our Prophet Sahaba gave importance to the Khilafah matter. That Prophet was not buried yet, and they were with 3 Muhajir only, that is mentioned here. And 50 or 60 Ansar. And at that time were thousands of companions of Rasulullah busy in burying of the Prophet. How can it be hujjah for those who are not there? Is it the election or imposing? It's very important to think about that. Because 3 Muhajir only, no Bani Hashim, no other Muhajir, no family of, and Hazrat Abu Bakr only mentioned there that we are the nearest of the Rasulullah. So this is only, he mentioned for himself. We are not B. And then he said that do bayat Umar. Then Umar said, Hazrat Umar said, I do bayat Umar. So my question is that if it is part of Sunnah, because we are following Sunnah of the Prophet. So Rasulullah, after 2.5 years after Rasulullah, Hazrat Bakr passed away, and he left will for Hazrat Umar. And after just 10 years later, Hazrat Umar appointed 6 people. That means this is just not part of Islam then. This is Islam is completed. Everything is wuzu, ghusl, tayammum, everything is taught by Rasulullah. And why not taught the system of Khalifah? Up to now we are fighting. I think we have to think about that. And you answer the question: was this part of Sunnah of the Prophet? That whatever happened after that, or is it not Sunnah of the Prophet? Then if not Sunnah, then Bid'ah.
So your question is to Maulana Sajjad or both?
I most of the time it's a really good brother.
I think Nakvi Sahib was said Dr. Pratap.
No, he will talk him later, he said.
Oh, Maulana.
So it is a political matter of Muslims.
Sir,
Yeah.
just more bit.
Yeah.
Could you put the mobiles off, please?
Yeah.
Such disturbance. Yeah.
Anyone is elected as a ruler of Muslims should follow the Sunnah and Quran. If he follows Sunnah and Quran, he is right on the right path. That is.
This section is part of Sunnah.
No cross questioning, Sheikh Nakvi.
No cross questioning.
Yes.
It's the rules. So we are academic people. There is no debate.
Yes.
So let me make it clear. Let me make it clear that this is for my al-Sunnah ulama, both of you, that there is a mawqif. For example, the matter of the appointment of the successorship was left to the Ummah, and the Quran provided the instructions, the piety, things like that has been mentioned. And the Ummah, they appointed someone as their leader. This is a mawqif. So you are here, both sides, to understand what the mawqif is. To be convinced, to agreed upon, this is not important. This is not important. Yes, when you understood this is a mawqif, you can say we are not satisfied, but you are right. This is an academic fact. You cannot go both sides beyond that, because that's munazara and debate. Yeah. That's not the solution. If there is a misunderstanding, about it, about any mawqif from the both sides, you have to ask the question and to clarify. Don't try to convince the other side because I'm not satisfied. This is not. So let them complete your answer. Even if you are not satisfied, write it down. Again, you will be given the chance.
So I think I have completed. If Muslim Ummah nominates or elect their leader, if he is running the systems according to the Islam, then it is okay. But Islam is more important than the personalities. If a personality is doing something wrong, the people can stop him. It does not mean that some personality is very holy personality and he is going against Islam. So personality is important. Leave the Islam. No, Islam is important.
Maulana Muhammad, as if you want to add something, addressing the question.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmadu wa salli ala Rasulil Kareem. I will respect both the views of al-Sunnah and Shia, Hazrat, both of them. What I would like to add here is that as far as appointing of Khalifa is concerned, it is politically perhaps more. But then we get all the evidence that we should have a leader. Because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam left a hadith in which he mentioned, alaykum bi sunnati al-Khulafa ar-Rashidin al-Mahdiyyin. And many places in the Quran, Allah makes mention, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ati'u Allah wa ati'u uli amri minkum. So when the Ummah, the leader has left this world, then there should be somebody who should lead the Ummah in general. And as far as the indications are concerned, there are many in the Quran. Not evidence, but indication. Muhammad walladhina ma shadda ala al-kuffar wa bainahum. Ma'ahu, who got the ma'iyyat of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That is, it is, in another verse of the Quran, it says, La tahzan inna Allah ma'ana. The word ma'ana was used specifically for this Sahabi who was with Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in the Ghar. However, there is no evidence 100% mention his name there. But again, that particular leadership is as far as to lead the Ummah in political situation. And spiritually is concerned, he is following the Sunnah and Quran and Sunnah, then the Ummah should follow him. But whenever he makes mistake or something, then they openly say that you should stop us. And Ummah has stopped many of the Khulafa when they made mistake. They don't say you are wrong. If you look into the history.
So let me put again the point of Maulana Amir Hussain Naqvi in a simple way. Because the question should be in a simple way, understandable to the rest of the people as well. He asked, Nabi alayhi salatu was salam, he always appointed his successor whenever he was out of Medina, even for a short while. And he appointed in his life. And when he was leaving this world forever, and that was the more important occasion. So then we saw after him, to their question that he had appointed, but Ummah never accepted. But according to al-Sunnah view, the Ummah accepted, the Ummah elected the Hazrat Abu Bakr. This type of election, was it the part of Islam? You know, there are two parts. The Nabi alayhi salatu was salam, why didn't he appoint any successor? That was the first part of his question. Second is, whatever was happened at Saqiba and Ikhtilafat, was the part of Islam according to al-Sunnah view? But this is not necessary for you to agree, but you need to understand what the mawqif is.
Mawqif can be translated as viewpoint.
Yes. Any Dr. Khuruma, any.
Yes, I love it. You give me little opportunity. I will be happy.
These 2 points, addressing, concentrating on the point because time is short.
Yes. What is the
question from the other side? Then Sheikh Harif, I'm coming to you.
The crux of the matter is this, that there are areas which has human, as Brother Ta'awullah Siddiqui has said, human input. And according to the different ages, so this is the beauty of Quran, that Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam are in the Quran, more specific naming has been done. Because this is, I am with Mawardi when he says Khilafat and Imamah. However, the Sharia remains supreme all the time. When we say Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he was a new Hajj, in the time in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and when Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he went there, he asked expressly, did you come as an Amir or Mamur? He said, this is, obviously you made this every Allah knows best about Shia opinion about this. But he said Mamur, and he followed he offered the prayer behind Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. That is out of the question. The whole crux is Sharia, is ijma, is community. Sharia is the ruling, authority. As long as Brother has said, Sharia is being adhered, so the system can be developed. System can be developed. There used to be tribes, and now we will find, every human being or every individual has been given a right to participate. At that time, it was not possible. If Muslims have conquered Egypt, how come they can make the Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu coming from delegation from there? But now it is possible. So it is left to Ummah, and this is what I said in the beginning. This is a de facto situation. All the Shia states, they have the democracy and they have the Shura Nizam as well as Sunnis. But we are all differing, this is...
No, the point is just to end up this matter, the major part of this is what you are talking about, very important point for the unification today. We're going to discuss when we, conclude. The point is that at the very beginning, at the time of the Prophet, there was a certain time when a quite capable leadership was required. Today's situation after 1400 years is different. For certain time, so that Islam was established, because the mission of the Prophet was to all mankind. And the mission of the Quran was, at every period, most of the human population should accept Islam. Most of them, which never happened. The question is that, was there a vacuum of the leadership? And that leadership was according to the spirit of Islam. I think was trying to say that, let me conclude and come to that. That's the whatever was happened, because those senior companions, however there were ikhtilafat, but they try to follow the spirit of the Quran. This is the al-Sunnah motive. They were trying to follow the spirit of the Quran, the spirit of Islamic Sharia, and according to their knowledge, they elected the best person according to their understanding to establish the mission of the Holy Quran. Why? Despite there were ikhtilafat. And the other side might not be satisfied but this is the motive. And that's the end of the matter here, Sheikh.
My job is never ever to cause factions or to assist one side or another. I believe we need to be very truthful. Whether it was Ali ibn Abi Talib or Hazrat Abu Bakr, who was the first Khalifa, Islam was complete. It won't make any difference to Islam. But if we are to be objective, we have to take certain things and accept them. Our loyalty should be to the truth, yes? But we respect everybody. If the Prophet left it to the Ummah, then Hazrat Abu Bakr should not have appointed Hazrat Umar. If Hazrat Abu Bakr was so mindful of the state of affairs of the Ummah, then the Prophet should have been by priority more mindful of the state of affairs by Ummah. So we have to accept that there is inconsistency. If we want to be very objective, we have to agree there is inconsistency in the early part of history. It doesn't make any difference to the Caliphate of Islam. I'm not going to be raised with Hazrat Abu Bakr or with Hazrat Umar or anybody. I want to be raised with Muhammad Rasulullah and be answerable to Allah. That's it. Nobody else. Yes? None of these people matter to me as much as me and my God matter to me and my Rasulullah. Yes? So I have no loyalty with anybody. I'm just saying be honest. Islam wouldn't have made any difference whether it was whether Abi Talib was the first Khalifa or the fourth Khalifa. Saqifa was not election by the Ummah. We have to be clear on that. Saqifa was a group of people, and from my reading, Sunni and Shia, they said, look, Ali is the favored one of Muhammad. If Ali is brought here, the one that Rasulullah favored, we will go for it. It's something that I have read very objectively. I said, look, he was the best candidate. Whatever happened. It's not going to make any difference to Islam, but at least Sunni and Shia, we need to be open enough, objective enough to say, look, objectively, this is inconsistent. One. Now, at this point in time, yes, what difference does it make? It doesn't make any difference. Yes? Imam Hussain himself said to the Basriyun that we are saddened that Ali ibn Abi Talib's position was taken from him. But we commend Hazrat Abu Bakr, Hazrat Umar, Hazrat Uthman to Allah for the good that they tried to do. So the Shia should think about this position as well. But I will say something else very interesting. Very interesting. The Quran gives a principle that the human beings will always be in a state of ikhtilafah. So now, even if Imam Ali were to have become the first Khalifa, there would have been ikhtilaf between Al-Hasan and Hussein, his two sons. Do you know this? At every point, within the Sunni and within the Shia, there have been ikhtilafat at every point. So if not in the first Khilafah, it would have been somewhere else. This is our nature to do ikhtilaf. But all I'm trying to say is to be very objective and truthful in your analysis.
Yes, no, so you are right. But here we need to understand the ikhtilafat, nature of the ikhtilafat as well, without considering anything. Why? If there is no any fight and bloodshed and confusion outside, then there is no need for discussion about these. Because the whole of the Ummah has been affected by it. Why? Because the both sides, they're accusing allegations each other, and the most of them, they are baseless. So there must be a forum where we just discuss honestly the ikhtilafat we have to accept. Honestly, there is. But despite these ikhtilafat, we can go together. For example, in the interfaith life, we sitting with the atheist people as well. They clearly said there is no God. We talk like, yes, this is you are right. Then we try to. Then the Christian, for example, talking about the Trinity, Quran is fabricated. We are calm and answer, right? So here, we more deserving to understand Judaism, to talking about ikhtilafat, asking the question, but in a nice way, without concealing the reality. Now, Sheikh,
but not only that. Here it's one family, one roof, one nafs, one blood. Yeah. So with Christians, when we sit, we say, okay, we accept it. But here we want to say, we are honestly one.
Yes, we're discussing ikhtilafat for the sake of harmony and unity. Yes, yes, this is the very important. And after Sheikh,
Just one minor point that we feel that our Shia brothers, they have given too much importance to what historically has happened, and there is too much on the TV out of proportion. So let us come to the nitty-gritty of today's world, you know.
To be honest, Dr. Saab, from the other side, Ahl-Sunnah also do the same in the past. Both sides, we have to blame the both sides in this way. You can say this side is much more, this side less more,
Yes.
but both sides, in action, reaction. But I think they don't understand the reality, of the matters around each other. Now, coming to the question, so this time I like to invite from the other side, our brothers and sisters.
Backbenchers.
Before I have to come back to the scholars, Brother Sagar Saab, Brother Nur Hussain Saab is here, mashallah. Then Mufti Muhammad Farooq Saab, if you contribute.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Jazakumullah khair دونوں اسکالر نے اچھی گفتگو کی ہے. یہ کتاب دیکھنے کے بعد میرے ذہن میں ایک سوال آیا.
کتاب کا آپ تعارف کروائیں، کون ہے مصنف کون ہے؟
یہ المقالات والفرق، یہ کتاب ہے سعد بن عبداللہ الاشعری الکوفی، اور قرن ثالث جو ہے یہ تقریباً 301 ہجری کے لگ بھگ ان کی وفات ہے. تو یہ پرانے شیعہ علماء میں سے. تو انہوں نے کچھ فرقے جو ہیں اس کتاب کے اندر دلوائے ہیں. انہوں نے یہ کہا کہ فلما قتل علی صلوات اللہ علیہ افترقت امہ التي ثلاث فرق. تو اس میں ایک جو فرقہ بنا، میرا جو کویشچن ہے وہ اس حوالے سے ہے، میں سارے فرقوں کی بات نہیں کرتا ہوں. ایک فرقہ جو اس میں بنا تو اس کا نظریہ اس نے یہ بنایا کہ ان علی لم یقتل ولم یمت ولا یموت. نہ علی قتل کیے گئے، نہ وہ مرے ہیں، نہ وہ مریں گے. وہ آئیں گے دوبارہ اور زمین کو عدل سے اس طرح بھر دیں گے جس طرح وہ ظلم سے کریں گے. یہ جو فرقہ ہے الفرقہ تسمى السبائیہ، یہ فرقہ سبائیہ تھا. اور سب سے پہلے حضرت علی علیہ السلام کے وفات کے، ان کی شہادت کے بعد انہوں نے جو نظریہ قائم کیا ہے امامت کے بارے میں. اصل میں یہ سمجھنا چاہتا ہوں کیونکہ شیعہ کے ہاں نظریہ عمومی طور پہ یہ پایا جاتا ہے کہ امامت علی کے اوپر نص ہے، اور حضرت علی علیہ السلام جو ہیں وہ وسیع رسول ہیں. یہ جو آج تک ہم پڑھتے سنتے سمجھتے آئے ہیں. لیکن یہاں یہ جو شیعہ اسکالر ہیں یہ کہہ رہے ہیں کہ وہ اول من شہد بالقول بفرض امامت علی بن ابی طالب واظہر البراءۃ من اعدائہ وکاشف مخالفیہ وکفرہم. سب سے پہلے جس نے امامت علی کی فرضیت کا جو قائل ہوا ہے اور جس نے کہا کہ یہ فرض ہے اور حضرت علی جو ہیں وہ وسیع رسول ہیں، یہ نظریہ امت میں سب سے پہلے اس سبائی فرقے نے پیش کیا ہے. تو یہ شیعہ عالم لکھ رہے ہیں. اگر یہ بات درست ہے ان کی تو اس کا مطلب یہ ہوا کہ حضرت علی جو تھے وہ حقیقت میں وسیع رسول نہیں تھے. یہ نظریہ بعد کا ایجاد شدہ ہے. تو میں یہ سمجھنا چاہتا ہوں کہ یہ کنفیوژن کیا ہے، یہ کیا کہہ رہے ہیں اور آپ کیا کہہ رہے ہیں.
Maulana Sahib is saying, according to this book, Al-Maqalat wal-Firaq of the 3rd century Muslim era, Muslim calendar, by Shia Ali, the death of Ali ibn Abi Talib sallallahu alayhi, there were 3 groups, out of which one of the groups is saying that Ali ibn Abi Talib was not killed and will never die. He will come back and establish the law of God and the will of God upon man. Now, it is said by this author that this Sabaiya firqa, possibly attributed to Abdullah bin Sabah, they are the people who are saying that this firqa was the first one to proclaim the divine appointment of Ali ibn Abi Talib. What this means by implication is that if this issue of divine appointment came by one of these firqas, then the divine appointment of Ali ibn Abi Talib was not an issue that existed prior to his assassination or whatever. This is the question that Maulana Sahib is asking.
So,
The point is that
yeah,
this is, adduced by a great Shia alim,
Yeah.
not any Sunni alim. So this is a confusion.
Yeah.
Because we used to believe that the Shia ulama, they rejected, they never accepted the existence of Abdullah bin Sabah. But this book says something else. This is.
Yeah. Thank you so much for raising this brilliant point. And actually, family, it's a family. Like many scholars were there in before Sa'd bin Abdullah, like Ahmad bin Isa, and many others. So, coming back to the question and the reference which you gave and the word you used there, the line which you read, is regarding Rawafid. And the Shia has always made their position apart from Ghulat and Nawasib. Unfortunately, the greatest victim of this community, Sabaiya and Ghulat and extremists, is the Shia community. When Jafar bin Muhammad, Imam Ali, he used to say Kasar Dahri, these people have broken my ribs and I'm trying to preach the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the message of the Holy Prophet. But unfortunately, these people are coming and say, Inna Salat Rajulun, Inna Zina Rajulun. So Salat is the name of one person. So as long as you believe in that person, that's enough. You don't need to pray Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillah, Subhan. You don't need to do that. Inna Zina Rajulun. Zina is the name of a person. So as long as you do Bara'a, yeah, that's sufficient. You can commit that Zina. You can enjoy your life, yeah, as long as you curse that person, XYZ. So this is how the Sabaiya and the Rawafis came into the existence. And later on, this came into the bits of it came into the Shia community as well, where the proper scholar of Faris al-Tusi and Najashi, they were not quoting from these people. And Ahmad bin, before him, yeah, Ahmad bin Muhammad bin Isa, Ahmad bin Isa al-Ash'ari, from the same family, from the same clan, in a unfamiliar way, he was asking people to kill those who were of this belief of Sabaiya and Rawafid. So the answer is, this were a group of Sabaiya and Ghulat, yeah. So it has nothing to do with Shiaism, the mainstream Shiaism. Rather, Ahmad bin Isa al-Ash'ari, Ibn Walid, Saduq. Saduq mentions in Al-Faqih, La'anahullah al-Mufawwada. May Allah curse the people who are believing in this sort of tafweez. So there was a huge debate in Qom, yeah, because this is something to do in Qom, yeah. Ibn Walid, Saduq, Ahmad bin Isa, Muhammad bin Aru, all these people used to live in Qom, and there was a huge debate among the Shias, because Shias were against the Sabaiya and Rawafid. So when he says they were the first one who said, I would tend to disagree on this point, because what Aban bin Taghlib would say, what Najash is quoting, yeah, this 301. And Aban bin Taghlib passed in 141. He says, we used to take the leadership and the khilafat and the knowledge from Imam Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, yeah. So what we say, isbatu shay la yunfi adam, yeah, la yunfi adam. So here, I would say this is true, because Sabaiya and Rawafid and Ghulat used to be there, but the most important victim of this was the Shia. So we need to differentiate between the Rafd and the word Shia. Rawafid and the Shia, as you were quoting in from this book, yeah? And you were highlighting the word Rawafid. So definitely Rawafid, Sabaiya and Ghulat were completely cursed by the Imams, yeah, and the Shia wouldn't be of this opinion. And for the Shia, believing in the Wilayat and the Wasiyat, they can come across these textual evidences which I was presenting in their books.
If you want to add something, you as well, because there's.
Is the author himself, how is the author valued by the Shia scholars, by the Rijal of the Shia? Where does this author stand?
Yeah, well, he's supposed to be an akhbari, not the current akhbari, yeah? Those who collects qisas.
So you may explain the word akhbari, because the Shia ulama, they know this word, not al-Sunnah. Within Shia akhbari, who are akhbari?
Yeah, well, there are two types of akhbari. So one is those people who would adhere to the riwayat and ahadith, and they would say whatever comes in the books, the 4 canonical books, yeah, that would be 100% right. You don't need to check the sanad and all this stuff, yeah. Those are akhbari. The other word akhbari are those who quotes stories, yeah, who are fond of collection, like different things, different stuff. So in Shia academic discussion, Sa'd bin Abdullah al-Ashari is not a muhaddis, is not a mufassir, you won't find single hadith. Despite of the fact, Ash'ari family, like Ahmad bin Isa and all these people were like muhaddis, they were like mufassir, like Ibn Walid, like Sheikh Sadhu, those people living in Qom. But this person, he did a brilliant job by collecting a good amount of stuff. But at the end of the day, he was a collector in terms of gathering the data. Yeah, he has never been a source of information in terms of like credibility, or we can say like his words is hujjah.
So the yes, Sheikh Abu
Yeah, I agree with what Dr. said, but I disagree with what he said, that the first person to claim that Ali was.
So your motive is regarding this book. So you disagree and
He's disagreeing. The Sabahiyya were the first people to state that Ali was wasi. He said,
right, this is
Because we have the riwayah from both Shia and Sunni. He
coming
says
to-
in
yes,
Kitabum
yes.
Taqalay, Kitabullah A'iqat al-Bayt, فَلَن تَضِلُّوا بَعْدِ كِتَابُ اللَّهِ al-Bayt in Sahih Muslim.
So this statement
Rasulullah.
does not stand to the authenticity or represent
No.
the proper authentic Shia views.
No, if Sabahiyya was the first, then the whole Prophet should be treated to be a Sabai also, because he's the one who mentioned about Ahlul Bayt.
Alright,
And he
this is
said,
the
"Allah
motive is
will
clear.
take him out."
The motive is clear. And this is not, as I said, important to be agreed upon 100%.
Yes.
But we have to clarify the misunderstanding. I think there are very important questions, right? Never been asked. But I have to ask first ulama al-Shia, because if I don't ask, then I'm sure no one is here to going to ask, and one to al-Sunnah as well, to clear the matter about the very important topic. As I said, we don't try to conceal anything. We have to be honest enough, right? And this is the only forum to understand each other. This question, because this is generally being asked and considered, thought generally by Ahlul Sunnah, must be put together, otherwise the discussion can never be completed. Imama, as it has been understood and propagated and believed by Mother Ahlul Shia, this is Isma and the continuation of the mission of the Holy Prophet, right? And even the sacred as well. And the appointed by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, as Sheikh Rajani said. The question from Ahl Sunnah generally, which is being asked or considered, is it hasn't been explained or stated explicitly. When they say explicitly, explicit, it means the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never appointed, he never said, Ali is my Khalifa and Amir and the leader of my community, and after my death, you have to follow Ali, not anyone else. This is an explicit. This is never mentioned by the Quran and by Sunnah, because this type of Imam, because as Maulana has explained, the institution of Khilafah, this is according to the authority of the Sharia. This is very important, but not divine, But to the Sunnis' understanding, the Imama is also divine. Please clear this matter, because this is something which is generally discussed. Well, at this point, if it was so important, why it hasn't been expounded in explicit word by the Quran and by the Sunnah, by the Holy Prophet? This is the question. Then coming to the next slide.
Thank you so much. I would refer to one of my slides where I said, according to like non-conventional approach, I would say you shouldn't see Imamah as a mission of God. Because God's duty, in my lay language, I would say God's duty was to send the messenger, the prophet. Yeah. So he did his job brilliantly by mentioning the great efforts of Rasulullah and his position in the Ummah. So Allah did his job brilliantly because that was his duty to appoint Rasulullah. The imamat, the concept of imamat is not God's duty. The God's duty is to make sure Prophet does his job brilliantly. Yeah. Now, whose job is to appoint imam or like to discuss the concept of imamat or the leadership? That's the duty of Rasulullah. So God would give the guidelines, as Dr. Khurram has said, and that's the beauty of God. Allah wouldn't jump into the matter which type of bay and you do this way, that way, conventional, non-conventional. Yeah, whatever transaction you would do, just stick it to it. That's the general principle. So Allah has given general principles, and Allah has given this authority to Prophet. Yeah. Now, from whom I should expect the imamat, the concept of imamat and the explicit stuff, I shouldn't expect from Allah because that's not his duty. I should expect from Rasulullah. And according to Shia, Rasulullah has done his job brilliantly. But as I mentioned, there's always going to be, when you stick to textual evidence, there's going to be.
So it means the Hadith al-Ghadir and the Hadith al-Saqalain and the Hadith of Tabuk. So for you from Shia school of thought understanding, this is an explicit nomination in respect of Hazrat Ali as his successor. So this is the interpretation.
Well,
we need this side need to understand the water.
Yeah, the mainstream
whether they
Shia
agree or not.
Yeah, the mainstream Shia position is these narrations would explicit mentions the imamat of Imam Ali. Non-conventional approach was not to stick to these narrations, rather go through a holistic approach of the fahm of the companions, yeah, and the incidents which occurred, and all this stuff which I discussed. Yeah.
Right, that's enough. That's the motive is clear. Right. From the other side, because from Shia brothers and ulama, this question, and Maulana Yaz, Dr. Khurram is here, Maulana, you can participate. But try to understand this question. To the understanding of ulama Shia, the meeting of Saqifa where Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq was given the bear, it was not a proper meeting, attended by only few important Ansar and the 3 or 4 Muhajir according to our own accounts. Right, first, it should have been discussed openly in Masjid al-Nabawi because the whole of the community never participated there. This is a very important question. They are not discussed and they are. Secondly, Banu Hashim and the family of the Holy Prophet, they were ignored and they never invited there. While there was enough time, because this discussion in Saqifa, it continues for a long time. And the house of Hazrat Ali and the other Ahlul Bayt and the member, even Hazrat Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet, wasn't so far. There was enough time to invite them there. However, according to At-Tabari, Ibn Asir, and Hafiz Ibn Kasir, they provided the account. And some of the Ansar, and they openly said, Ali should be invited here. Was we agree? He was not invited there, right? So generally, let me put this question as they ask. In the history, even for thousands of the years, all great people, whether they have been kings, emperors, or the prophets, leaders, chiefs of the tribe, after their death, their family, they were consulted and occupied the prime position in respect of the election or selection of the successor. But we don't see in the case of Saqifa. This is a very important question. So if you or Dr. Khurram or Maulana Iyaz, if you can address. Because without this question or this discussion can never be complete.
As far as al-Sunnah are concerned, al-Sunnah are concerned, they think that it was taken as granted. Because in the lifetime of the Prophet Abu Bakr, he was leading the prayers. he was leading the prayers, and it was in the lifetime of the Prophet himself. And I don't think there is any dispute about that. So when it was in Skiha Bani Saada, then they did not say that there is a nas about Abu Bakr Siddiq. The al-Sunnah are very honest. They did not, no one claims. There may be some offshoot of al-Sunnah who may claim, but general mainstream, they don't claim. And Abu Bakr, he said about Umar, and when they have counter argument to Ansar, they did not say it is that Prophet's nas, they said it's about Quraysh. That was a nas. That was a textual evidence which they have presented there. So it is very, very ample clear that it is back to the Ummah. It is not duty, where here we disagree fundamentally, that it was not duty of the Prophet ﷺ to leave a nas for implicitly for anyone after him. So what he has left, that is a rahmah. That is not dispute, But I will go again that I will show you, our brothers, they don't give that importance to the community, to the Ummah, and then what the result they get, they said after only 3 people were remained Muslim, all the Sahaba, they became Kafir, some of them, all of them, they were at fault because they don't give that importance to community. And now what is happening in Iran? They are giving, they are coming back. They are coming back to what is the opinion, that is the real Islam. Are you with me? So what happened. What happened in the history, of Islam. But the net result is this, that when you say only 3 people among the Sahaba, they were, on the right track, rest of them, they are.
I think the answer is in the word falta.
Yeah.
That was seven centuries. People have no experience to choose their leader, because before Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, people, they were divided into tribes. They always familiar with the tribe leader. Now that was Ummah. They have no experience to choose the leader of Ummah. In the situation of vacuum, there could be a big disaster. That's why, because Ansar, they started choosing their leader.
They said one from us, one from you.
Yeah, that would be a great problem between the Ummah. So they, Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala started bang on his hand of Bakr Siddiq, and they all except some, they all did that on his hand. Now there was a leader for the community, Muslim community. Vacuum finished. So questions are still there. Why Banu Hashim is not consulted? Because A'imma min al-Quraysh, because of the Qaraba nearness. Who was the near? Hazrat Ali was more near than the Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. But there was a vacuum. They felt that the vacuum will be a great problem.
I'm just wondering, taking a non-conventional approach, that when we are considering the 2 people, Hazrat Ali and Hazrat Abu Bakr, when we consider during the life of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the relationship that Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had, we have the seerah of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam about the things that happened, the different instances. We have the hadith where when your scholars, the one about when I think Hazrat Abu Bakr was sitting in a tree, and I think somebody was laughing to say, "Oh, look how skinny his legs are," and they said that, "Well, look, those weight of those legs are greater than the mountains of Uhud, I think." Yeah. So I think there are. The point I'm trying to make is that we shouldn't ignore the evidences that we have about the character and the direction we have from the Quran and the hadith regarding what are the qualities of a leader and who is the best amongst you is the one who's the most pious. So we are aware of the characteristics of the leaders. I think my reading of what we've listened to and reading is that in choosing the next leader, would there not have been psychologically, would the companions not have been prepared in understanding how to choose someone, who the preferred candidates would have been? Wouldn't they already have that through the example, through the direction that Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would have given during his life? Are we kind of ignoring that because we're looking for specific, we've already said there's no explicit direction, so you have to look at what's the most, what's the direction given as well.
I just, right, this is the part of the book. If that's not you,
Brother
Ataullah, yes.
I'm really, when I'm listening to all these things, I feel that we have a principle of how to get rid of it, but it never applied. How do you get rid of a Khalifa? You see, if you are corrupt, you have to live with them. How do you do that? That's just a problem that is going on. I think the core thing that we have said, the hasty decision, a community which is just emerged out of tribalism to a faith-based identity, is searching some meaning in the election for leadership. But that crisis has to be at the background of that. Secondly, the Quraysh and their role, even at the time of Jahiliyyah, were the central because of their importance of the Mecca. So that background has played a role, I think, in some cases. That has to be that part. When al-Rashid Sahib says that it is the centrality, is the Sharia part. I think that the guardianship of the Sharia was the issue. Khilafah is not the guardianship of the Sharia. But when the whole Khilafah itself becomes corrupt, what is the meaning of this? How do you maintain? I think we have a big problem in this. And to compare today's Pakistani election with the election of Khilafah, it feels really a problem.
Big problem. Big problem. After the Idrissa.
Yeah. This is just on some remarks about what's happening when the Ministry started some Muhajirin. Initially there were 3 or 4 people from Muhajirin, and the majority of them, they were from Ansar. They did their bay'ah in the hand of Hazrat Abu Bakr and Ali Bayt, Hazrat Ali family. They were not involved in that at that time. But later on, this bay'ah was open as well. I think in the second or third days, that was in Masjid Nabawi. The open bay'ah was from the Muslim community as well. And that is very important that majority of the companions and the majority of the Muslim community at that time, they did bay'ah in the hands of Hazrat Abu Bakr. And then, you know very well that Hazrat Ali joined that bay'ah as well.
After 6 months.
Yeah, but so after 6 months or 4 or 5 months, 6 months, okay. So why this mainstream, the Muslim community, they are on the other hand, they think about, you know, they have their concept of Khilafah, and very minority people of the Shia community, they are not with them on this issue of the Khilafah.
So you want to address?
Okay. Yeah, I just want to very brief. I definitely agree with it. What Imam Bukhari said, Imam Bukhari said, what he quotes, like, Lady Fatima, she didn't accept the whole scenario for like 6 months. Yeah, so this is what you're quoting. The problem with Shia is they're not able to distinguish between this. What I quoted from Aban is the mawqif of Shia. So what happens, I want to take the Sunnah of Rasulullah, yeah, what Dr. Ataullah mentioned, how to take the Sharia. So from where I'm going to take, because companions have difference of opinion regarding the Sharia of Rasulullah. So Shia went to Imam Ali, said like, I'm going to take the call of Imam Ali regarding what Prophet has said. So this is the thing. Otherwise, like Salman, he was one of the companions of Shia. He was one of the governor for Hazrat Umar. Yeah, Miqdad was one of those people, like when Hazrat Umar was appointing the Shura, he referred to Miqdad. So this is the problem of maybe the Shia who would be thinking in this manner, but the mainstream Shia and the companions of Imam Ali, they were part of government, not only just being the Bay'ah, part of the government. Yeah. So the answer is Shia would take the Sharia from Imam Ali, and later on, if the companions have the debate about the which stance of Imam Ali, if they have a dispute, they will take from Jafar bin Muhammad.
Mufti sir.
मैं असल में ये बात कहना चाहता हूँ आप
There are many people.
Do you want to explain? Never mind.
No, please.
डॉक्टर खालिद ने जो सवाल किया है कि नबी वसल्लम की फैमिली को मशवरे में शामिल क्यों नहीं किया उन्होंने, इस सवाल का जवाब अभी तक नहीं आया। लेकिन मैं इसी हवाले से बात करना चाहता हूँ। शिया मौक़िफ़ अपनी जगह पर, सुन्नी मौक़िफ़ अपनी जगह पर, मैं इन दोनों को नहीं छेड़ रहा हूँ। मेरा इन दोनों से हटकर सवाल है, वो ये है कि इस बात पर आप लोग यहाँ इत्तेफाक कर चुके हैं कि कुरान ने गाइडलाइंस दी, प्रिंसिपल दी, और उसकी रोशनी में आगे उम्मत ने मामलात को तय करना है। कुरान ने एक उसूल ये दिया है कि अम्रुहुम शूरा बैनहुम, मुसलमानों के मामलात आपस के मशवरे से चलेंगे। सकीफ़ा बनी साइदा के अंदर जो कुछ हुआ, अंसार जो हैं वो मुहाजिरीन के साथ मशवरे के लिए जमा नहीं हुए थे, वो अपना दावा लेकर बैठे हुए थे, लिहाजा वो निकल गए। मुहाजिरीन में से सिर्फ 3 आदमी वहाँ आए, मेजॉरिटी मुहाजिरीन की नहीं आई, जिनको अहले हल व अक़द कहते हैं। वो सिर्फ 3 आदमी अहले हल व अक़द नहीं थे, और बहुत सारे लोग थे। ना अहले हल व अक़द को बुलाया गया, ना बनु हाशिम को बुलाया गया, और ना ख़ास फैमिली रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम थी उनको बुलाया गया। तो ये जो अम्रुहुम शूरा बैनहुम है, कुरान के इस हुक्म के ऊपर अमल नहीं हुआ मेरी समझ के मुताबिक। जहाँ तक ये बात की गई है कि हज़रत अबू बकर की बैत जो है वो कुछ वक्त के बाद मस्जिद नबवी में हो गई, बैत तो यजीद की भी हो गई थी और मस्जिदों के अंदर हुई है, और मेजॉरिटी ने बैत की है, अक्सरियत ने बैत की है। थोड़े लोग थे जिन्होंने उसकी बैत को नहीं माना। जो हज़रत अबू बकर की बैत हुई है मस्जिद नबवी के अंदर, वो मशवरा नहीं था, फैसला सकीफ़ा में हो चुका था, अब उस फैसले के ऊपर अमल दरामद करवाया जा रहा था। तो मस्जिद नबवी के अंदर भी मशवरा नहीं हो रहा था। तो मैं ये समझता हूँ कि अम्रुहुम शूरा बैनहुम के इस उसूल को सकीफ़ा के अंदर खुद मुसलमानों ने तोड़ा है। अगर ये काम न किया जाता तो आज हम इस प्रॉब्लम के अंदर ना होते।
Mufti sir just said something that's quite brave and very bold. And he's responding to some of the questions we were asking, especially about these are food obviously preparing as well. So he said, the question was by Dr. Khalid, why weren't the family of the Prophet consulted at his death about the Khilafah, whereas the norm of the world has always been to consult fundamentally the families of the reformers and the prophets or great men after their death. He said, I do not have anything to do with the Shia or Sunni positions on the matter. All I'm saying is that both of you have consensus on this matter and have agreed that the Quran gives guidelines. One of the guidelines that the Quran has given is Amrum Bainahum Shura, that their matters are resolved through consultation. Professor said Saqifa was not an extension or a reflection of Shura. Shura did not take place in Saqifa. The Ahlul Aqd, Hil wal Aqd were not present in Saqifa. There were 3 people from Quraysh. Neither were the Bani Hashim invited into Saqifa. Bani Umayyah were also not present in Saqifa. So therefore, we can say that there was no Shura within Saqifa, and this is in conflict with the Quran. Now the point was raised that the bay'ah was done by majority. Officer is saying that the bay'ah was not done on electing Hazrat Abu Bakr. That was already decided. The bay'ah that happened in the mosque was a follow-up acknowledgement of a decision that was taken by a few, so bay'ah was not constituting shura. He said if you take that as an evidence, then Yazid's bay'ah was also done by majority in the mosque, so such bay'ah does not constitute any evidence whatsoever. Mufti Sahib is saying that it seems that immediately after the demise of the Prophet, the Muslim community moved away from the instructions and guidelines of the Prophet.
Right. Well, so this is from Muslim side.
And he made it clear that he's not involved with
Yes,
Shia
yes, this is but if you can address this one.
Uh,
And the Sunni scholarship, Dr. Awla is here. If you can say after him, Sunni scholarship over this issue. Well, the question is very sharp.
Yeah,
Question
is
Yes.
very short and made the meeting very light.
I was sleeping, he wake me up. Wake me up.
But this answer was given by Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu in his speech. He said that the bay'ah of Umar was done in a falta, hasteness. Abu Bakr. Yeah, was done in his. Yes. Anyone follow this practice again, they will kill it. So it was disturbance situation that is done in the beginning. But when Khalifa is elected or selected, now the better situation was to follow. That was my understanding. And Dr. Bashir
Yeah, you have said beautifully. If we put in the context that there are Ansar who are the indigenous population of Medina, very powerful tribes, and they are going to elect one Amir, and these three people, then when they heard, and then there was a pressure of events. You can see that Prophet ﷺ was so much loved by Umar. When Prophet passed away, Umar got his, sold out. Someone who will say Prophet has passed away, chop his head. So there was a heat of moment, that there was no other way. So we are not supposed to criticize, our great companions of the Prophet ﷺ on without understanding the whole context, which context it happened. It happened because if the suppose Ansar they choose an Amir, what will happen? The whole Arabia is not going to accept it as Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah, the situation.
Yes, dire need of the necessity of the situation required them to do that.
Yes, sir, very precisely because time is about to be over. And the brother, your name?
My name is Maqbul Rahim. Thank you very much. I'm very shortly trying to find out. I'm trying to struggle with this concept of Khilafah as understood by al-Sunnah. Is it rulership or is it guardianship of Sharia? If it is rulership, I understand that it is like rulership, like tribal chiefs who rule, okay? If it is guardianship of Sharia, then where was the Sharia to be sourced from? And were there any circumstances in which that particular institution could have made any changes in Sharia? So I'm trying to understand that, look, if it is guardianship, could it change the Sharia? And if it did change the Sharia, what was the basis on it to change Sharia? So where is the source of that concept, which I think is excellent, guardianship of Sharia, which is somewhat easy to understand, that look, they were guarding the Sharia left behind by the Holy Prophet. But then when we see that changes were made in the very Sharia, then it's difficult to explain what is the exact nature. I mean, that is the understanding that what was in time with the Holy Prophet, etc. Okay, so I'm just trying to understand how can I explain. I want al-Sunnah view to explain the al-Sunnah view of what is Khilafah. I can explain what is Imamah very well. Sixth Imam Jafar Sadiq has explained the concept of Imamah. With Nas, Ilm, and all that. And so we understand that, Dalil, Hujjah, all that. But you want to understand from the point of al-Sunnah, how do I explain this?
Sorry, because you added another point. Our topic is only succession.
the institution of imama and the authority of institution of khilafah that's coming. This is the succession, but just the nature of khilafah and the authority. If also from al-Sunnah side address, because
Yeah.
Maulana, you
I think it was the guardianship of Sharia, and they were human beings. As human beings, they can do mistake.
Can I just add to that one? Because guardianship, when we talk about, is not something which is fixed and unchangeable. It is a process. According to that, it will continue. At the time of Sayyidina Umar, there were things happen, but if you look at the situation, like the Syrian conquest, as soon as the conquest happened, the practice of the Prophet was that the land and things would be divided among the people who conquered. The moment he realized that in the future what is going to happen, he said, no, it will not be divided, and in future this will be property of the state. Now this itself is become now a practice, the following part. But if the circumstances changes, situation changes, then you also need to change again. You have to move again. So the guardianship is the spirit and the practices of the guardianship of the Sharia part. And my context is that what I was looking at there, saying that Khilafah itself, which is supposed to be the guardian, itself becomes corrupt. Then the ulama starts to protest again. If you look at the first few hundred years of history, it was the protest of the ulama how to curtail the power of the state. After the fall of Khilafah, how to regain the power of the state becomes the issue of Sharia. And these are the two key swings in the whole path. But Sharia is not something fixed. It has to have guardianship which has to be done, but it must change according to the situation and practice of the time. Shia context is much easier perhaps, that is much more chaotic in Sunni part.
You know, Dr. Iqbal, just last sentence, he got a beautiful his collection of his sermon, his khutbah. He said that when he's discussing ijtihad, he said that the Sunni opinion, although he mentioned the Shia opinion as well, and Shia opinion, as you see, Majlisul experts, experts assembly separately. He said that is the Shia, and he comparing it with the Sunni opinion. He says beautifully that what I find that in the Muslim land, law colleges should teach Sharia, because all sovereignty, when we say sovereignty belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it goes to Sharia. Everyone is subject to Sharia, whether he is a Khalifa or whether he, and all these terms, Khalifa or Imama or Amir al-Mu'mineen, they are subject. And whole thing is Sharia. This is what the Mahdi has said. That it's not fixed that you must use this word, because Khalifa al-Nabi, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala. Then Khalifa al-Nabi, they say no, it's no good Khalifa, then this is Amir al-Mu'mineen. And then they have changed Salatin, this have nothing to do with Sharia itself. It is just names, and it is changeable, as you have said.
Yes, Sheikh Abu Jafar first and Hafiz Idris Sahab, thank you for being patient for a long time, because today's topic, it was very, very crucial, very important, the only topic which is the essence of all these seminars and the topics. That's why we spend more time, and just we are on the almost conclusion, be patient a bit more. Sheikh Abu Jafar, a very precisely question.
May Allah inshallah keep us all together in this, but as Mufti has said and Brother Arif has said, we have to be honest in dealing with the nusus. Dr. Khouram mentioned about Sayyidina Abu Bakr to be the Amir of Hajj, but in the same hadith, he didn't want to mention that Rasulullah, he said Hazrat Ali to take away Surah Bara'ah from him. So there is also meaning in that. And also concerning the Saqifa Bani Sa'ida, the bay'ah which was done publicly, the tension was so high. Then the whole Qabila Bani Aslam, entered Medina with 400 people. All they were armed, and they all gave bay'ah to Abu Bakr. So they are the one who solved the problem. Qabila Bani Aslam, if you read in the history. So tension high. So the whole Qabila came up in Medina to see what is happening. And then when they realized that there was a confusion, they all gave bay'ah to Abu Bakr, and it was finished. So the question of who leading the Salat, Abdullah bin Maktoum also, he led Salat during Rasulullah. Also Mu'adh bin Jabal, he led Salat during Rasulullah. Also Sa'd bin Mu'adh, he led Salat during the time of Rasulullah. So it's not a question of talking in this. If we talk about Khilafah, we have to go deep and thinking really what this institution is. Concerning Shura, is Mufti Sahib had said here, Allah, he said, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. But at the same time he said, فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Which means Shura is not for things that Allah have already decided. It is things that people, they need, as Dr. has said here. So the Shura here of the Imamate, we have to go back again and see whether Allah has really hinted in the question of Caliphate or not, and whether Rasul have already said. And my point is that Rasulullah has mentioned this a lot about Khilafat, and he said, فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ تَخْلُفُونِ فِيهِمَا, in Hadith of Tirmidhi. So if you go deep to this ibara of Arabic ibara, فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ تَخْلُفُونِ فِيهِمَا, it means Rasulullah, he put his Khilafah on the Quran and the family members of Ahlul Bayt, because the word تَخْلُفُونِ فِيهِمَا has no significant meaning than this.
Yes, I think the point is over. But let me clarification, because it has been discussed already. Because there are two different motives. al-Shia, Imam Ali was appointed. From the other side, no one was appointed, and this is based on the evidences. So from the other side, the motive is that because the matter was not decided explicitly by the Prophet and by God, and through some instructions, obligations, and the guidance left to the community. It may not be acceptable to you, but to the other side, because the matter to them, because this is not explicitly decided by Allah and His Prophet, so the Shura is allowed. So that's Afisa.
Actually, the verses of the Quran, Shura, that was not ignored at that time. The Shura took place at that time, and there was a long, very heated type of debate between the companions took place at that time. So Shura means that you are consulting, you are debating, and then you are coming at a conclusion. So Wa'amruhum Shura Bainahum was not ignored at that time. And the other thing is, I think this is very, very unfair remarks that if we compare Yazid to Hazrat Abu Bakr, that Yazid took the bay'ah in the mosque, and Hazrat Abu Bakr had to give the same.
No, that wasn't comparison. That was just an instance. नहीं वो बात लंबी हो जाएगी क्योंकि टाइम नहीं रहा, क्योंकि जब मैं बोलूँगा तो वो बहुत प्रिसाइज होगी. That wasn't, comparison. That was just an example to given the bear. This is not enough proof, because the later caliphs, whom we don't like, they were given the bear in the mosque as well by the people, and under the state of duress. So he tried to strengthen the whole of the community should have been gathered there instead of Saqifa, all of them. And the matter should have been discussed openly in the Masjid al-Nabawi, and as a result of this open discussion, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq or someone else would have been elected. That would have been the ideal form of the Shura. That's Mufti Sahib, appointed.
Shura जो है ना सकीफा बमसादा में, मैं स्टिल इस बात के ऊपर कायम हूँ कि वहाँ शूरा नहीं हुई, वहाँ झगड़ा हुआ है, वहाँ पर लाठियाँ निकली हैं, वहाँ पर मुक्के चले गए, तो ये शूरा नहीं हुई.
Right, the Mufti Sahib got that Saqifa wasn't Shura because there was dispute.
That is not the only opinion of the.
There is a problem, serious problem. There is a whole group of Sunni ulama. They talk about the status of Sahabi that you cannot criticize.
Actually, the status of Sahabi, institution of Sahaba is coming. But I must tell you that through my personal experience, because now I have to hand over the matter to Sheikh Saab to conclude it.
Yes.
But this is from the both sides. For example, for Shia ulama, Sheikh Saab, you are here, and Sheikh Rajani, because when Imam Ali, for example, he claimed when Hazrat Abu Bakr was given there and there was a debate and the conversation between Imam Ali and Hazrat Abu Bakr, when he was elected as Caliph, right? Then Imam Ali, he differed. He showed his disagreement, but he never said, I had already been appointed by the Holy Prophet. And you all people, you went against the will of the Prophet, you are sinful. And this is a crime. He never said. Because this is the point. And the other point is, Mufti Sahab, for ulama al-Sunnah, this is quite serious. Maulana is here because as we express the status of Sahaba, which is going to be discussed, and this meeting, even the Ansar secretly, they held their meeting. They never invited any Qurayshi outside. And they decided in favor of Sa'd bin Ubadah. And later on, when 3 or 4 Muhajir, entered there, right, long argument, and suddenly they decided there. None of them said that we should go to Masjid al-Nabawi. So these are the questions, my ulama. 20 years ago, 50 years ago, I personally believe that was something like disbelief, a kufr to talk about in this way. But today, our own students, our own people, even al-Sunnah, they're asking me, we have to face the Saqifa. So we have to sit together somewhere else and we have to, decide about it. So this is something which is, I think, very important to be considered for both sides. Sheikh Saab now.
Thank you. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are able to sit together and to be able to discuss such a sensitive issue without becoming overly emotional or offended. Alhamdulillah, this is a great achievement. I need to thank Allah for this. I will concur with Dr. Saab. He would say, but he did not say anything else. He said he knew my position was such that I was the best suited person for that. But to say that you are sinful, you didn't give me bayah, this would be difficult to source this from history. But he did believe that he was the most qualified person. So I want to say something to my Shia and my Sunni brothers, if you allow me. If the Shias believe that the Prophet said, Kitabullah wa itrati, yes, then we should know that within our books of fiqh, yes, Hazrat Umar would ask, Abul Hassan, what is your view? And whenever Ali ibn Abi Talib would give his view, Hazrat Umar would say, listen to Abul Hassan. Listen to what he is saying. Ali ibn Abi Talib, in his khutbah, said to Hazrat Umar, when you're going to Persia, make sure you're not at the front. Because if you get killed, the whole army will be scattered and the affairs of the Ummah will become messed up. We don't find anywhere with the Khilafah of the first 3 Khalifahs that Ali ibn Abi Talib was antagonistic. Whenever he was needed, he was there assisting. They gave him due respect. Hazrat Osman, when the Muslimin came, he sent a poem to Imam Ali. لو كنت آكلا فكن أنت معكولي. لو كنت معكولا فكن أنت آكل. If I was an edible thing, then you be the one who eats me. No one understood what it meant. So I'm saying is, whether Imam Ali is employed as the first Khalifa or the 4th Khalifa, please tell me, what difference would it make to Islam? Islam is as it was supposed to be. If the Prophet is saying Atrati, then Ali ibn Abi Talib is advising the worker, Hazrat Umar, Hazrat Osman, he's advising all of them. Yes? And the Sunni books have more hadith of Ali ibn Abi Talib than the first 3 Khalifas put together. Yes? I'm just saying this to the Shias. If Ali ibn Abi Talib was here today, what would he want? What would he want? He would want to be there leading the prayers with people like this, people like this, people like this, all praying behind him. Yes? In Jamal, not in Jamal, in Siffin, people like this were praying behind him. He had no problem with it. He had no problem with it whatsoever. So I'm saying to the Shias, if the Mahdi comes today, yes, what would he want? He would want one Ummah. He doesn't care who prays like this, who prays like this. These are historical things. The other thing now I want to say to Sunnis and Shias, that we need to be a little less emotionally attached with the history. We have to be objective. They make mistakes. They're human beings like me and you. They had greed in them. They had jealousy in them. They had anger in them. As-sariq wa-sariqa faqtu aydiyahuma. These are the Sahaba. Sahaba's hands were being cut. Yes? Azani wa zaniya fajlidu kullu wahid minhuma. We had the Jews, those Sahaba and Sahabiya. They were greedy. They were jealous. Yes? They were angry. They were thieves. They were human, like me and you. Be objective about it. They can make mistakes like we make mistakes, but they try to do their best. I will really take my hat off to what Dr. Ataullah said. The human community is in a state of flux. Yes? You need a Khalifa who is clever, who can make a decision. If Hazrat Umar made a decision that it will be state-owned and no longer distributed, then that was a very accurate decision. When the Ummah had evolved to that level, where that man made a very accurate decision, that from now on this will be state property. Nothing is infallible of the Sunnah. Even the Sunnah of the Prophet is there to be interpreted. The Prophet said, Kitabullah, Kitabullah bayna aydina. It's there, as it was. It doesn't hurt, it is there. Itrati will always be in a state of flux anyway. So what difference does it make today? I'm just asking the Shias to think about this very carefully. It's a historical thing by human beings. It has gone. And Ibn Abi Talib, Al-Hasan al-Hussein worked with the Khalifah. There was mutual respect. Yes, there was cordiality. There was care and there was concern. We can see that in the history. And I'm saying to the brothers, Sunni brothers, please be objective. Be self-critical. Be objective. It doesn't make any difference. It is just for us to get clarity so that in the future, as we progress like an Ummah, we progress in a far more informed way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for sacrificing your time. Because of the importance of time, today we took much of the time, and may Allah give you great jaza. Let me correct one wording, because it should be confused or taken wrongly. I know what you meant. So this is from among Sahaba. There were those as well. There was greed and chocolate. This is just clarification wise. Thank you very much, and this is the end of the matter. And before, we have to conclude with dua of the Holy Prophet. And after dua, and there is a time